Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sport and another edition of the Scottish Football Show. It's me, Joe Stanley again, and I'm coming back to give you some more updates and preview the Scottish Football Matchday 32 in the Scottish Premier League. Yeah, last weekend was a exciting time, and there has been a managerial casualty up in Scotland with Robbie Neilson being sacked by Hearts of Midlothian after 5 defeats on the bounce there. We're going to be taking a look at that first with Stephen Naismith being into the hot seat on a caretaker basis. Could that caretaker basis be made permanent come the end of the season? We'll soon find out. But yeah, last weekend was a dramatic weekend in the Scottish Premier League, and some results did not go the way that we expected. We're going to take a look now straight away at the Hearts manager. So Robbie Neilson was sacked by Hearts last Sunday after a few years in charge there at Tynecastle. And yeah, wow, Stephen Naismith has been thrust into the hot seat. And yeah, we're going to take a look at that and see so what we can find out and what we think about it, and find out a bit more about the decision from Hearts, obviously, with them. So obviously, Robbie Nielsen was there at Hearts. He was there for a few sorry, at the club, and you know, they've done fairly well, to be fair to him, in the league. I thought until this season when he stagnated a little bit, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. I'm gonna get his stats up for you now on his spell. Secretariat at Tynecastle for you. So yeah, obviously he departed last Sunday the 9th April, following the defeat the previous Saturday. So yeah, Robbie Nielsen, he was at Hearts 126 matches after being reappointed as Hearts manager in June 2020, and that is average points per match of 1.70. He's had a few transfer history as a player. This is so yeah, I thought I was going to say a few signings, a few moves, but transfer history as a player, so we won't look into that one. My apologies. Their stats showing the 22 to 23 season. Let me take a look at this for you. So he's had 31 matches in the SPL, won 13, drew 6, and lost 12, with 45 points on the board. In the Europa Conference League, 6 matches, won 2, and lost 4, so 6 points there. Scottish FA Cup, 3 matches, won 2, and then obviously lost the 1. Scottish League Cup, they lost early doors in that one. And Europa League qualifying, they lost their 2 qualifying matches there, so wasn't exactly ideal there for him. But if we take a look, if I can get his whole career stats up from Hearts, just taking a moment here. Here we go. I forgot he was once manager at MK Dons, so it's yeah, good to have a look at that. 368 matches, 100 over his 2 spells, 192. Oh, in his career, so yeah, over his 2 spells at Hearts, 232 matches, 126 won, drawn 44, lost 62, 433 goals for, 277 goals against, 422 points earned. So that's an average of 1.82 points per match. in charge at Hearts over the two spells. Originally, he was at Hearts between 2014 and 2016 before returning to Tynecastle and was there from 2020 to 2023. Had some big spells in charge there as well. Apparently, he's won as a manager, he's won the Scottish Second League Championship twice. So he won it in 14-15 with Hearts, again in 1920 with Dundee, and then he returned to Hearts in 2020-21, and they won it then. So he did win some silverware at Tynecastle, but yeah, it wasn't exactly the most successful of spells there. Anyway, on to what we can expect from the next odds for the bookies. Obviously, there's different bookmakers available, but Bet Victor was one of them, and William Hill. So these are a mixture of those two. They've got Stephen Naismith at 5-1, who's currently in charge as caretaker. Frankie McAvoy, who was at Preston, he's 8-1. 5-1 again is Neil McFarlane and Stephen Robinson, who, funny enough, Stephen Robinson is the guy that my friend Sam, who's a massive Sam Evans, Tranmere Rovers wins, who's a massive Scottish football fan. He said Stephen Robinson should be the guy that Hearts are looking at. Doing great work over at Livingston. You got Gary Monk, Danny Cowley, and Paul Lambert 10-1. Derek McInnes and David Martindale 12-1. Ian Holloway 14-1. I don't think Ian Holloway will be coming back to management anytime soon. Dan Ferguson's at Peterborough, so I find him unlikely. Chris Wilder at Watford, his contract could be up in the summer, but whether he will want to move up north, I'm not sure. Graham Arnold, Martin, so Fufu, Twentis, Billy Reid, and David Poznanski, all 16-1. Derek Adams, Grant McCann, Roy Keane, Nathan Jones, formerly of Southampton, John Robertson, Kevin Muscat, and Stevie Gerrard, all 20-1. Stephen Gerrard would be an interesting appointment, but I'm not sure if he'll go back to Scotland and whether he wanted to. Well, I wouldn't say taint his Rangers legacy as much, really. It's not like he would be going to Celtic, but yeah. I think he'd want to keep his Scottish football legacy firmly with Rangers. Craig Levein, could he return to the club? He's 25-1, along with Ian Evatt at Bolton, Neil McCann, Brian Barry Murphy, who's been linked with Tranmere Rovers, Michael Uppleton, Paul Ince recently sat by Reading this week. Can't see him coming in though. Lee Bowyer, Dave Challinor, uh, Cezar Michelniewski, Stephen Presley, Scottish international there, Cole Robinson, some wonders at Oxford until he was sacked in February, Mike Tulling and Neil Critchley. He would be a good outside bet, Neil Critchley. He did well with the Liverpool academy side in the under 21s, did fairly well at Blackpool, went to join Villa as Stevie G's assistant early on this season, should I say. Didn't really work. He left the club then, went to QPR, and QPR's club a bit of a mess at the moment. Didn't really get the rub of the green there. Recently sacked, but I think he would do wonders up there. He's a young manager. He's like a very good, fast, expansive attacking philosophy. His teams do tend to get results as well. He seems to be a good man manager, so I think he would be a good outside, if Hearts were to look at him. Jonathan Woodgate, John McGreal, Peter Wild, Nigel Atkins, Neil Lennon, which I can't see a former Hibs manager coming to Tynecastle. I couldn't see that one going down too well. Scotty Parker, Dean Smith, who's in at Leicester at the moment, David Artell, Graham Alexander, former Motherwell, maybe. Paul Tilsdale, Sean Derry, Lee Catamon, not so convinced on that one, and Garrett Sheffley all at 33-1. Where can I see coming out of this? I think on this one, I think Stephen Naismith would be a target. I think Robertson has to be looked at myself. I agree with my mate Sam. I think Naismith obviously depends on how well he does from now until the end of the season. Do I think Paul Lambert? I can't see it. I can't see Paul Lambert there, but I think if he went up there, he'd do a job. But I just don't really think Paul Lambert's someone that would consider Hearts with all due respect to the club. I think um, looking further down the list there, personally I would have liked to have seen Stevie G back in management, but I think he'll stick around in the English leagues if he comes back into management there. Paul Robinson's quality manager, but I think so. There, I think for me, I'd be looking at the likes of Naismith, Robinson, and Critchley. They're the three names that I'd probably be looking at. I'd chuck Graham Alexander in there as an outside bet, but I don't think really he's going to be getting the job there or considered. But yeah, that's who I think. Let us know who you think could be the next Hearts manager in the comments below as well on this one, guys. And don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe for more sports content here. Let's talk sports. But yeah, looking ahead to the weekend and the fixtures in the Scottish Premier League starting tonight, Friday night at 7:45. So shortly, it's Ross County versus Aberdeen. Aberdeen on a good run of form at the moment with a 2-0 win over Kilmarnock last Saturday. Two goals by Luis Lopez, one in the first minute, one in the 59th minute, saw them cruise to a victory, and in doing so, jump above Hearts, who obviously, as we were just talking about, into third place in the table. So with 47 points. So yeah, it was a good weekend for Aberdeen there. I think it's going to be interesting. Whereas Ross County, they also won as well. So they're not on the worst of form. They won 2-0 away to St Johnstone. It's going to be a tight game between the two sides, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 Aberdeen win. On Saturday, we're kicking off with the Edinburgh Derby, going back to Edinburgh. It's Hibernian versus Hearts, and yeah, it's going to be feisty game as always between the two sides. One side, obviously, it's a bit like Glasgow in respects where the sides are split between the composition as well. Funny enough, both teams, Catholic teams, play in probably predominantly green kits, green and white. So yeah, it's will be an interesting game because both sides are in great form at the moment. Both teams seem to be struggling and stuttering along, but these games always live up to the billing. And with Naismith in charge, will Hearts have that new manager bounce or caretaker manager bounce? You look at last weekend, obviously, as I mentioned, Hearts succumbed to a 2-0 defeat to Saint Mirren at home, whereas as Hibernian lost 2-1 away to bottom of the table Dundee United. So it's yeah, Dundee United, with all due respect, they're a club in absolute mess at the moment. With Hibernian losing to them, it's going to be flashing up few warning signs there. They're normally games that have goals as well, the Edinburgh Derby, and a few cards. I can see maybe a red card coming into this one. And a few goals. I'm going to go for a cheeky 2-all draw between Hibs and Hearts in that one. 3 o'clock kickoffs. You've got Rangers versus St Mirren. As I mentioned, St Mirren just previously beat Hearts last weekend, and Rangers succumbed to a 3-2 defeat in the Old Firm derby. So with St Mirren, it was Curtis Main and Alex Gojic on the score sheet for those two in that one. Whereas Rangers were controversially beat 3-2 in the Old Firm. Kyogo Furuhashi of a double and Jota for Celtic, with James Tavernier, the captain, getting 2 goals. One of them a sumptuous free kick for Rangers. But yeah, it's we saw Alfredo Morelos' goal being ruled out in that game, and it's quite controversial. And there's lots of debate on whether it should have stood or shouldn't have stood. For me personally, looking at it from a referee's perspective, someone that has refereed football myself, it's awkward because the defender's got hold of Morelos, so he's tugging his shirt, but Morelos obviously pushes the defender to get A, get him off, and B, obviously by pushing him to the floor, it's a foul, and he's going to advantage, but also there's a foul on that one. Uh, on Morelos as well with the shirt pulling. So for me, it's like six of one, half a dozen of the other. 9 times out of 10, these decisions are going to go into the defender's favour. Which, as a forward myself, when I play football, I play either as a striker or a winger. It's incredibly frustrating. A lot of the time, I want to look at it as a perspective of if they're both at it, just leave it go. Yeah, let it go, let it play. But at the same time, the laws of the game probably, if you're looking at it on paper, shouldn't allow that. So yeah, a bit of a controversial one there with the Celtic and Rangers game. It was tight though, and but maybe it might be fair to say Celtic deserved the win if they performed slightly greater during the game, if that makes sense, despite that goal obviously being ruled out. With St Mirren obviously on great form at the moment. I think it's a tough game, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 Rangers win. I think St Mirren will score at Ibrox, but I think Rangers will have to go a goal down, turn it around, and come up with the goods and a 2-1 win. We're looking at the other two 3 o'clock kickoffs before we're looking at the Sunday game. The next one along is Livingston versus St Johnstone. Livingston last weekend succumbed to a 3-0 defeat away to Motherwell, which wasn't great for the side, with Kevin Van Veen with a double and Max Johnston on the score sheet for Motherwell. Livingston. If we take a look at the stats from this game, from Livingston, obviously the 11 shots apiece, only 6 on target for Motherwell, 2 to Livingston. Livingston 54% possession, so they dominate possession, had a lot of chances, just couldn't get them on target. 404 passes, the accuracy was up there, 1 yellow card apiece. But yeah, and you're looking at this table as well. Livingston sat 7th place, so in the middle of the table, can still get into 6th. Still an outside chance of 5th, but not the greatest run of form at the moment for Livingston. So I'm going to looking at this one and the fact that, well, I suppose St Johnstone lost as well last week, so tight game, but I'm going to go for 1-1 draw on that one between St Johnstone and Livingston. Both teams not getting wins last weekend. I think they'll beat each other out. Motherwell, Dundee United, should say Dundee United. I've been there before where I've said Dundee and to a United fan, and the Dundee United fan was not happy. He said it's United and then it's Dundee. You, so if you're referring to the team that play in orange, it's United. The team in blue is Dundee FC. So yeah, don't get the two confused, guys. But yeah, you're looking at that. Dundee United last week, 2-1 win over Hibernian at home to close that gap and try and jog themselves back to safety. Obviously, they took the lead through Stephen Fletcher, who we all know from his time in the Premier League with various Premier League clubs such as Burnley, Wolves, and Sunderland. And then Mykola Michkiewicz equalised in 17 minutes before Jamie McGrath coolly slotted away on the penalty spot to give Dundee a win and pull themselves back up that league table. You're looking at it now at the bottom end of the table. Dundee are bottom 25 points last week. They look cut adrift, but really, Ross County 27 points. They closed the gap. They're reining them in with 3 games left of this league season. 2 games left of the season, should I say. They're reining them in. There's still an outside chance of survival with Ross County 2 points ahead and Kilmarnock 3 points ahead. So depending on how, say if Dundee win their next 2 games, they could survive and pull off a great escape. You're looking at this one as well. They had 10 shots, 4 on target against Hibernian as well. They didn't have the possession. Hibernian had all the possession, 65 to 35% for Dundee, but the passing accuracy is up there. Great passing accuracy. They had 246 passes with 63% accuracy to Dundee, and committed less fouls, and they were well disciplined with the cards as well. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do. Motherwell on a good run of form as well with their win against Livingston last week as well. They look to have dominated that game as well, like I said with the stats before. So I'm going to go with, unfortunately for Dundee, I don't think they're going to have enough in this one, and I think it's going to be a 3-0 win again for Motherwell, and pretty much be another nail in that Dundee United coffin, depending on how Ross County do against Aberdeen tonight. But I personally think Aberdeen will get the win, as I said earlier on in this video. And the final game of the Scottish Premiership weekend sees Kilmarnock host Celtic. Can Celtic clinch that title with victory at Rugby Park? It looks like, with all due respect to Kilmarnock, it's written in the stars here. It looks all out there. You look at the stats last week for Celtic in the Old Firm: 9 shots to Rangers 8, 7 shots on target to Rangers 3, 55 to 45% possession, 463 passes to 377, 79% accuracy from Celtic. They did commit more fouls, they did get more cards though, and they were offside more, but the offside stat I always find, people say it's a bad stat, but not necessarily, it just depends. For me, the offside stat shows that the players were getting in the right positions. That means they're attacking, they're getting they just weren't timing their runs sufficiently enough the forwards. So it proves that they were creating chances still. So it's not all, doom and gloom if that's not going the way. And uh, if you've got high offsides, it's just one of those things. The more risks you take as a forward, the more likelihood you could be offside on that one. And we're looking at Kilmarnock, who, as I mentioned, lost 2-0 to Aberdeen last week. Didn't have the greatest of weeks either. They did have more shots though. They did have more shots than Aberdeen on goal, despite their defensive frailties. Well, obviously they conceded the 2 goals last week. Matt Pittodrie, 3 shots on target from Aberdeen, scoring 2 of them, whereas Kilmarnock couldn't score their 2 shots. Aberdeen had their lion's share possession, 56 to 44. They had higher passes as well, better accuracy. The cards split evenly at 1 apiece of the yellows, but yeah, another defeat for Kilmarnock, and it wasn't the greatest of performances. I'm going to go for an easy win for Celtic. I'm going to go 3-1. I think Kilmarnock will get on the score sheet. They seem to be a side that do score in games, even when they're not performing too well. But I think you can't look past Celtic in these games at the moment. So I think Celtic are gonna walk this one. I'm gonna go for a 3-1 win for Celtic. If we look at the league table after last weekend, Celtic top of. Actually, we'll go from the bottom. We'll go from the bottom and then look up. So Dundee United bottom after 31 games, 25 points. Ross County 11th. So they're in that relegation playoff with 27. Come on, just above that with 28 points and 10th. Then you got St Johnstone with 32 points. Motherwell 8th with 36. 3 behind Livingston, who are in 7th on 39. Hibs are 6th on 40 points. So it could be anyone's in 6th place, really could be anyone's between Livingston and Hibs. St Mirren is on 44, or I should say I'm on 44 points, 1 point behind 4th place Hearts, who are 2 points behind 3rd place Aberdeen, who switched places with them last weekend after last weekend's fixtures. 2nd place is Rangers after succumbing to defeat last week to Celtic in the Old Firm, 12 points behind Celtic, who will look to secure the title with a win on Sunday. So this has been the Scottish Football Show on Let's Talk Sport. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And we'll see you all on the channel very soon.